I'm hoping the Big Ten has to modify their system for us.
Probably like getting grade 10 sandpaper rubbed on your face every day.
I mean, we say it all the time, whether, there's two types of turds, you're a sinker or you're a floater, but you're still a turd, right? I
mean, we are about players and players playing the plays and not necessarily the plays.
Welcome to the Varsity Club podcast. Feels good to say that again. My name is Derek Peterson. I've been gone for a hot minute. It's been about a month since I last had this podcast. And I just need to give you guys a little update on what happened. So I have agreed and Hail Varsity has allowed me to come back for another year. This podcast will continue. There was a brief little period where I wasn't podcasting, where we were trying to work out kind of what was going on moving forward. I'm happy to say that they have allowed me to stay in this podcast space. So shouts to Hail Varsity for that. Subscribe to Hail Varsity. Go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe. Listen to all the other Hail Varsity podcast offerings. They're all excellent. And they all had episodes over the last month, whereas my feed was dormant. But I'm really excited to be back in this space, really excited to be back on this feed. I'm not going to talk about what I'm doing now. You can go find me on Twitter and look at that if you want to. Now is time to talk about the Super Bowl, and more specifically, Zac Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. That's this weekend. It should be awesome. And so to do that, I have on, he was not Zac Taylor's teammate. I'm going to say Zac Taylor was his teammate. Jay Moore, former Husker. Jay, welcome to the podcast. It's been a long time since I've talked to you, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, I like that. Zac Taylor was my teammate, right? That sounds way better than I was Zac Taylor's teammate. That's what I tell everyone. Zach was my teammate. I should say I was teammates with Zach.
There you go.
For 2005 and 2006 down here in Lincoln.
Yeah. So I have to ask you first, where do your NFL allegiances lie?
That's a really good question. I don't have, a favorite team per se. To be honest, I don't watch a ton of NFL football. I am definitely more of a college football fan, but
right.
My allegiances will say, I do pay attention to the 49ers because that was who drafted me in the 4th round in 2007, and I spent 3 years out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I do pay attention to those guys. There are a couple guys that are, I think still with not players on the team, but guys on the training staff that are really good dudes that I spent a lot of time with because I was hurt for 3 years straight out there. So
right.
I got to know the training staff really well, and that's not what you want to do when you're a player in the NFL, is get to know the training staff really well. But I follow them, and obviously ever since Zach has taken over at Cincinnati, I actually own Bengals merchandise. I actually own some hoodies and T-shirts. I will say now I'm going to have to get on him that I shouldn't have to be paying for this merchandise. I should, I need to receive a care package from the Bengals equipment staff with some Bengals gear. But I'll be sure to bug them here maybe in maybe a couple of weeks, and then hopefully maybe then I can get some Bengals Super Bowl champion T-shirts. That sounds even better.
Well, let's just spend the next 30 minutes on this podcast saying super nice things about Zac Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals, and then you can send this to him, and maybe that can be your hey, here I'm doing publicity for you.
Right.
Okay, so I'm glad you didn't say the Kansas City Chiefs, because I know that being where everyone is in Nebraska, Kansas City is a likely team to kind of latch onto. So I am kind of happy because I'm a Chargers guy. I am kind of happy that we have some new blood in the Super Bowl, that we don't have Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady is not around anymore. Do you feel the same way? Are you happy to see new teams in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's the Chiefs are really good. I mean, honestly, I was really hoping for 49ers, Bengals, Super Bowl. As a kid, I remember those, what is it? Early 80s to mid 80s, early 90s. I think the 49ers and Bengals matched up a couple times, and then obviously like I said, if I have any allegiance, it's to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. So it's been fun to see them. Yeah, I think anytime you get some new blood, I mean, it's always, it just seems like it's Tom Brady and the Patriots, or Tom Brady in Tampa Bay or Kansas City, and they've made the AFC Championship, the last 4 years, and the past 2 Super Bowls. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely excited for some new blood, and it's pretty exciting that Zac was part of Sean McVay's staff. Last time they played in the Super Bowl, and I think it was that low scoring 13-10 or 16-13 Super Bowl, and they played the Patriots. So it's kind of cool that Zac came from the McVay, I guess you want to quote it, the coaching tree per se. So yeah, it's fun, and it has kind of a cool element. I mean, when was the last time you had back-to-back Super Bowls where the stadium is part of the home team's stadium, so that's pretty cool to see that, the Buccaneers won it last year in Tampa Bay, and now LA is going to play in their home stadium now, but I don't hope that LA wins. I hope the Bengals win now.
Yeah. For us, college football leaning football fans, I feel like we're living vicariously through the NFL right now, because we have to deal with Alabama and Georgia in the playoffs every single season, and Clemson and Oklahoma to a lesser degree. So now we get some new blood. Now we can go into the next few months and spring ball and spring practice and things like that with renewed optimism that we're not going to get the same Alabama and Georgia teams in the national championship next season, even though that's probably like the most likely scenario. Let's jump in. Let's just jump in. You've been around Zac Taylor, or I should say he's been around you, former Nebraska quarterback, played with you, current Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Does it surprise you that he has his team in the Super Bowl in his 3rd year? He was 2-14 in year 1, 4-11 in year 2. Now they're 10-7. They beat the number 1. They beat the number 2. To call it like a Cinderella, there's an element of a little bit of like, well, this was somewhat fluky, which maybe doesn't. I mean, maybe some people feel that this run the Bengals are on is fluky, but it kind of illegitimizes what they've done. Does it surprise you that Zac Taylor has this team in the Super Bowl?
No, not one bit. Zac, he comes from a football family, a football background. His dad Sherwood played at Oklahoma, coached for a little while at Kansas State, and kind of shut it down once the kids got older. And so I got to know, the Taylor family really well. I mean, Zac and we lived together our senior year, so got to know the Taylor family really well. And why I say it not is because he comes from a phenomenal family. I know his younger brother Press was coaching. I know he was with the Eagles at one time. I think he was with the Eagles and they won a Super Bowl. I don't know who he's with now. I know that world changes, a lot, because you kind of get tied to a coach or a coordinator, and if they get bounced out of there, then usually you're kind of following him around, or vice versa. So no, Zac is one of the best human beings you'll ever meet and be a part of. He's definitely a family first. His wife Sarah is awesome. He has 4, wonderful kids. And that's what's most important to him. And I think the handful of years that I spent in the NFL, and it's a crazy business, right? It's cutthroat. It's very black and white, and a lot of times coaches are in certain positions, and it's without a doubt, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. I think in the coaching business, and I think that can bring out some bad coaching, some just guys just become petty, and the coaches just aren't good people, and they're not necessarily in it for the right reasons, and they view players and so I mean you're just an object to them, and it's like, okay, how are you going to help me get to a Super Bowl, vice versa? But I just don't feel like there is always an element of that with NFL, because you're only allowed to have 53 guys on a roster. You're only allowed to suit up 46 guys on game day. So there is, an element of you have to get the best guys, and I totally get that. But I feel like Zac takes a different, angle to that. I just think that from his background, from him being around really good for him, just being a good person and just being around a lot of other good coaches. I mean, his father-in-law, Mike Sherman, was the former head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and then that's how Zac kind of got his foot into coaching when he stepped on his staff at A&M when he was a GA, then and moved up really quickly to, I think he was a tight ends coach, or maybe a QB coach, because I know Tannehill. They have a really good relationship with Tannehill when he was at A&M. Then he goes to the Dolphins. I believe as a wide receiver coach, and then he joined Sean McVay's staff. And then just a few years ago, Sean McVay was the hottest thing smoking, in the coaching world. And teams are going to get him out of LA, but okay, who can we get, from his tree? And Zac was one of the guys. And I've kept in close contact with Zac. I mean, I talked to him probably more since he was the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals than previous years. I mean, he called me one afternoon. We spoke for probably 30 minutes. He was driving from Cincinnati to Nashville to interview a defensive line coach. That's just the kind of guy he is. Yeah, that's the kind of guy he is. So I think he's just a good person. I think that's what brings it out. I just think there's not a lot of good people in the NFL. I just don't. I just think, and you're kind of bred that way too. You have to kind of have this nasty, selfish mindset, whether as a coach or a player in the NFL, because it is a business and you have to look out for yourself. But I don't think Zac, he has a little bit of that, but I think he has a good heart. And I think that takes you a ways. And if you want to call it luck or karma, whatever, let's be honest. I think he'll get the bounces because he does things the right way. He treats people the right way, and he's just a good person. And I think that helps. And it doesn't hurt that he has one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And he's got just good pieces, and I think he has guys on his team, and he drafts that fit his mentality. Zac is not a very look at me, I'm gonna be, wearing, I'm rocking this. I got these, I got the Lululemon, not Lululemon. I got the Louis Vuitton. I got the Gucci, all this stuff. And he's not that guy. He's not flashy. He goes to work. Zac's the kind of guy that's, probably wearing issued, shoes and stuff. He's just not a super fancy guy. And I think he has guys he's drafting guys and getting guys free agency that are in the same kind of circumstances as he is. He wants guys who are just hard workers. It's not about them. Let's just go to work and make this team better. And I think that's hard to come by in NFL these days. So I think he just has the right mindset and just comes from the right background of people. And it's all of that, man. There's a lot to it, but I think first and foremost, he's just one of the best guys you'll ever meet. And I think that will take him a long ways in this career.
It seems like with most quarterbacks, for the quarterbacks that played at like high major college football teams, the stereotype is just, oh, well, he was a quarterback, so he'll be a good coach when he's done. It's the field vision aspect, the fact that, he has to understand the jobs of everyone on the field to operate efficiently. It kind of sounds like you felt that way with Zac. Like, was he one of those guys that when he was at Nebraska, everyone was like, oh yeah, like he won't just be a coach when he's done, but he'll be a good coach?
Yeah. We never like talked about coaching, to be honest. I thought, Zac was good enough. I mean, he was Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year our senior year. I thought, he went, he went to the combine. He went undrafted. I think he went to an OTA or a rookie mini camp with Tampa Bay. And, I think he kind of realized this is not what I want to do. I think he realized Zac loved the game of football, but I don't know if he necessarily loved playing the game of football. So I think he knew he wanted to be part of his life. Because as football players, that's kind of all you know. And so a lot of guys who play the game get into coaching because that's kind of the only thing you know. Mm-hmm. So no, I to be honest, we never had the conversations like, I'm gonna get into coaching. I thought Zac was honestly good enough to play football in the NFL. I mean, he had a decent arm. wasn't the most mobile, but I'm like, he could go to some of these NFL teams, I mean, and play, and maybe not be a starter, but be a backup if he really wanted to, and make a decent career. But that obviously wasn't what Zac wanted to do, and that's totally fine. So, he's just, for him to come in and pick up and understand Bill Callahan's West Coast offense, coming from a JUCO in at Wake Forest previously. I mean, it's like learning Mandarin Chinese, which, it's hard, and to be able to articulate the offense, it's almost like a paragraph, a play will, you're calling out 2 to 3 plays at a time. You got to get protections. You got to understand defensive fronts. You got to understand coverages. So it's a lot. And it's no surprise when you got to understand all that. And coming from a system like Bill Callahan, I think, there's such a negative connotation with Bill Callahan. That name's brought up around here, but like people underestimated how smart of a football coach he is and how good of a football coach he is, and just didn't work out here, and I think that helped Zac understand the offensive side of football. But when you're a quarterback in offense, you really got to understand defense as well. So he's able to use that and to his strengths, and he's just smart. He's smart. He's level-headed. He doesn't get he doesn't get focused on the wrong stuff. It's how can I make so and so better. He's always the first one. When he makes a mistake, it's his fault, even though it might not have been. So that's the type of guys that make great coaches, and obviously no surprise that he's coaching in the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Sometimes, when a former quarterback becomes a head coach, or an offensive coordinator to a degree, there can be a sense of like, well, I did it this way, so this is the way I want my guys to do it, or I did it this way, so like this is the way it should be done. Like when you watch the Bengals play, like do you see some of the same traits when you're watching Joe Burrow that like does he do anything that like reminds you like, oh, like Zac was that way? It not necessarily in like mechanic things or things like that, but some of intangibles, maybe the way he reacts to teammates, the way he carries himself in huddles, things like that. Do you see some of those same things, or do you see just Zac like with this guy letting him be himself?
Yeah, I see. I can't say I see a ton. I mean, Joe Burrow has a lot more swag than Zac Taylor ever has. I'll say I have no problem saying that.
Joe Burrow has more swag than anyone will ever have.
Right. So I have no problem. I have no problem saying that. But yeah, I think what Joe has in the confidence, just the calm kind of confidence, I think Zac helps him, a little bit. But I think Zac lets his guys be as guys. But I think the best thing when you watch his teams play is they just adjust so well, whether it's offensively or defensively. I mean, it's no lie that the Bengals offensive line is not great, right? I mean, Burrow got sacked 9 times against Tennessee. He was harassed early in Kansas City, but they make adjustments to able to make the games work, their plays work and their system work. And that's whether it's, using bootlegs, get them out of the pocket, to, whether it's, calling a bunch of screens to slow down the defensive line. But I think that's the best thing about whether it's Zac or Brian Callahan, who is Bill's, son, or the defensive coordinator, whoever it may be. Troy Walters is on the staff as well, is the ability to change. And sometimes you get, as a coach, you're like, all right, you have your game plan and you feel very proud about your game plan. You work very hard and you're like, man, okay, this isn't working. And sometimes, it's like, no, we're going to stick with the game plan. But I feel like they do a really good job of adapting and changing things on the run. I mean, that second half, the change they made in the second half against the Chiefs, I mean, I think everybody in the world thought this thing was over. But as soon as, they shut down the Chiefs, they don't get any points for halftime. Like, man, this momentum completely switched. And then, how many, I don't have the stats in front of me. I can't imagine that this has to be the first time the Patrick Mahomes era that I think they ever held to 3 points in the second half, and that's a testament to his defense and letting his coaches, do those things and make those necessary changes. And then they made some great changes on offense to to capitalize, on some of the mistakes that the Chiefs made and to get the offense going. So I think that's just what Zac does well is, he lets his coaches do their thing, and say, hey, if this isn't working, let's scrap it. Let's change it. And that's, like I said, that business where not in the National Football League, there's a ton of egos. And sometimes, the coaches think that they have the best game plan, and they may have had the best game plan put together, Monday through Saturday, but sometimes things change, and having the ability to change on the fly, that's what makes the good ones even better. So I think Zac just has a great understanding of all that, how it works. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I think you see on his team is he lets his guys play, but he also lets his coaches do their thing and get in there and allow them to make necessary changes too, to get the ultimate goal, and that's to win. And sometimes, like I said, in the business of the NFL, sometimes I think winning it gets, obviously it's the most important thing, but like I said, the egos and sometimes guys, have a different end game in sight than what the rest of the coaching staff might have, because like, hey, I want to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos this next year, so I'm gonna do this to make it look like I'm worthy of this position to John Elway or whoever the general manager is in Denver. But he just does a good job of surrounding himself with the right people too. So that's just years of being in the business and being in the coaching business to learn. That's what that's probably most important, is just surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Joe Burrow and he's got Jamar Chase. So obviously, as long as those guys stay healthy and stay around, like they're gonna be successful going forward. But like two pretty good indicators of their ability Zac's ability to have sustained success there is, one, what you just said, their ability to make adjustments and sort of read and react to what they're getting and change things up. But then the team just plays really hard for them too. Which is also a pretty good indicator that you're doing the right things throughout the week. Jay, are you a betting guy? Like, do you get really, like, are you going to bet on like the length of the national anthem or the coin toss?
I don't. I do bet. I love to bet golf. I'm a golfer. I like to bet golf because that's just what I'm a golf junkie. So I know a lot. So I do like a lot of, DraftKings lineup, and I'll do, I bet on people every week to win the event. And then I will bet on more people after the cut's made, just, getting a guy at plus 2,500 or whatever and throw $20 on him. Nothing crazy. Just because I know golf and I know courses and I'm just that kind of guy now. But I don't bet a ton of football. I'll do it every now and then, but I just tend to lose a lot more on football than I do on golf. So I just don't know much about football. I just don't, especially NFL football. And it's just hard. It's so hard. I'm not that guy. Do you see the guy that hit that parlay of he predicted both AFC and NFC championship games correctly to the T, and it was a $20 bet and he won like 580,000.
Yeah.
Predictable scores perfectly. So
some of those are insane. Like, yeah. there was a college football one earlier in the season where there was a guy that did a 10-team parlay and he bet the under on every single game, and it hit. It was like a $10 bet and he hit like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't remember the exact number, but like the people that do that are insane.
Well, it's fun to do. It's only $10. Like, why not? But like, if you hit it, it's kind of like playing Keno at a bar, right? It's like, oh, $10 here, might be able to, Keno is like the worst odds in gambling, but it's fun to do. Kind of gives you some entertainment throughout the weekend. Those parlays are fun. But yeah, I just don't, I bet the AFC and NFC championship games, and I had both the Bengals and the 49ers covering, but I had the overs in both games. But the unders freaking hit on both games. So, I tend to do better in golf for some reason, just because I pay attention more to what's going on currently. But let's be honest, I'll probably still bet a little bit on the Super Bowl. I still like the Bengals, getting 4 points. I think I like their chances on Sunday.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Do you think they win this game?
I do. I don't think the home crowd is a huge factor. I think, hell, there was more 49ers fans at the game 2 weeks ago than there was Rams fans. I mean,
Yep.
the Rams had to use a silent count in their home stadium. I mean, that's unheard of. And the Super Bowl is a very corporate crowd. I mean, last I saw, like the cheapest ticket to get in there was like $4,500. So like, and that's, not a very good seat. So who knows how many Rams fans will be there. I think Cincinnati will travel fairly well. I love the only thing, it does concern me, Aaron Donald and Von Miller, but they've gone against two really good defensive lines the last couple weeks or last, 2 games, and they've slowed them down. So I just think they're kind of on a roll right now, and they just find ways to win. And I think Joe Burrow's got something to him. Matt Stafford, this is his first Super Bowl, but I don't think this scene is too big for Joe Burrow. I just feel like he's got that, we said it, swagger and just comfort, the comfort to take care of business. So I like their ability to get the job done. I think it's gonna be a close game. I really do. I don't know if it's going to be a shootout by any means. If I now, again, don't take with my my field, but I would bet Cincinnati and take the unders. I think that's like 48 right now. I just see it being kind of a slower. I think if the Bengals have a chance, they got to slow it down a little bit. To be honest, that's the way I kind of see it.
Yeah, I don't see the over under in front of me, but I think Rams are 4.5 right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it should be fun. I am my father-in-law, he's kind of like you in that he bets a lot of golf, but he also, bets on just about anything. So earlier in the college football season, him and I were doing it together, and I found that like, man, I was thinking way too much about these things, and I was just losing money, so I stopped. But when we get to the Super Bowl and you see some of these prop bets, some of these are exciting, man. Like, how many 2022 Super Bowl commercials will feature a dog? That's a bet that you can make. What color will Snoop Dogg's shoes be during the halftime show? That's a bet you can make. Blue is the favorite.
What was Snoop Dogg though? Is like, I feel like that's like a Crip and Blood thing, right? Was he a certain side? I can't remember. He was a Crip, or he was a Crip, wasn't he? So like, and then you have to wear blue shoes. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe.
to go there, I guess. I feel like back in the old Snoop Dogg, like when he first came out, like I feel like he was I can't remember. I mean, that's a Seawalk, right? Like that's the Crip thing. So that's going back to like my middle school or like elementary school days, and like like Nothing But a G thing came out with like him and Dre, back in the day.
There's another Snoop one, whether he will smoke on stage at the halftime show. You can bet yes or no.
I feel like that'd be definitely a yes.
Yeah. Will any part of Eminem's performance be censored? Yes or no? I feel like that's a definite yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had his was it? I think it was Recovery album when I was growing up, and like, because I was growing up, my parents wouldn't let me have the explicit version. I had to have the clean version, and like every other song or every other word was censored out. So, are you excited about this halftime show?
It's good. I mean, yeah. It's Snoop, Eminem. Was it Mary J?
And Dre, and then Kendrick Lamar. It's definitely geared towards some of the older folks, not necessarily like people younger than me.
Yeah, I like Kendrick. I know Kendrick. I'm 38, but I definitely love my hip hop, and R&B. So I know Kendrick, and he has a lot of good stuff. And he's an LA guy. Dre, and obviously Snoop, and then Eminem. He's a Detroit guy, but he has a connection with Dre. Then obviously Mary J. I mean, she's one of the greatest like R&B singers we've ever had. So it's gonna be good, and it's nice that I think the Super Bowl is a 20-minute halftime show instead of the normal 12 minutes. So it'll be good. I think it'll be a great show.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. Another thing that you can bet. People are betting on whether the price of Bitcoin will rise during the Super Bowl because of the amount of Bitcoin and crypto commercials that we're going to have during the game.
Well, I don't have Bitcoin. I have some other crypto, so I'd sure as hope that some of the market will head up on the crypto, because I'm sure crypto.com or whatever will have a bunch of their commercials in there. So yeah, it'd be great. I could some people get into the market on that, and get the the basis to go up a little bit. That'd be nice.
I don't understand any of that stuff. I saw a bunch of it on social media like last summer and last fall. I think people are talking about like Dogecoin, which I don't even know if it's crypto or not. Maybe it's like fake crypto.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crypto.
I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, we don't have enough time to explain it. I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is it's kind of the way of the future of, I think, how, the markets are going to work and how, currency is going to work and stuff like that. So, I don't have like a huge footprint in it, but it's something it's enough to get my attention. And, and you got to be kind of long in it. You can't really look for a short, quick deal on it. And you kind of have to hold it for the long haul. And it's very volatile. That's the biggest of people too. It fluctuates a ton. So, I'm not trying to give out financial advice by any means here, but it's, I gotta put a disclaimer on that.
Getting a crypto literacy course.
Yeah, but no, you got to be long, and it's not like something you buy and you hold it for like a week and you're hoping to make a bunch of money on it. That's not the case. You're gonna want it for a few years. So, and then you got to enjoy the ups and downs of it, and then get out of it when it really gets up a lot. So
the only thing that I know with certainty about like crypto, Bitcoin, things like that is that when I was in college, my senior year, my roommate he was big. He was a computer engineering major, big into building his own computers. And so he had one build, and then when he upgraded a bunch of specs and built something new, he used the old build, and our energy bill skyrocketed one month, and I had no idea why. And he used the old build. He had it running 24/7 in his room with like 5 different tower fans, all pointed at the CPU, at the build. And he was just mining crypto 24/7, mining Bitcoin. And I want to say he like gave up on it, because this was like a long time ago, like well before it was anything absurd like what it is now. I want to say he like gave up on it, but I feel like he had something that like if he would have held on to it, he would have pretty good money right now. That's about the only thing I know though, so I guess maybe I should have like hijacked his computer.
Well, I mean, you hear the stories about, people like, oh, I had, 50 Bitcoin back in 2008 or whatever it was. And it's like, or 2010, I don't know when it officially was available, but it's like, I didn't know what the heck it was. It was worth like $1. I bought Papa John's pizza with it.
Yep.
And it's like, now, if you obviously had 50 Bitcoin, it's, I don't know what it's at, 40,000 a share, or give or take around there. So It's like, well, you would have been a millionaire. So,
Unfortunately.
it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, but it's the cryptos, being in the stock market, just, it's like gambling, you're hoping you can put your money in and make something on it. But, but I think it's investing is you have better odds than gambling. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, in lieu of making any money off of Bitcoin, since I don't understand any of it, I will make all of my money using this prop sheet that I found for the Super Bowl, and bet on the color of the Gatorade that'll be dumped, on who will win, on how many dogs there will be featured in commercials at the Super Bowl. And I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to bet on the Bengals, and we will see what happens. And if that doesn't pay out, then you'll be getting a bill from me, Jay, just so you know.
Okay, that's fine. You can invoice it to me. That's okay.
That's all I got for you, man. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Right.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And it's good to catch up with you again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And it's exciting to see a guy that I shared a townhouse with, he's coaching, a team of mine coaching in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I've done a good job of leaving him alone. I've just been speaking with his wife, the last month or so. So I'm just going to let that be, let him do his thing. And then maybe, who knows, maybe I'll give him a week or so and I'll hit him up, and then maybe go see him this summer in Cincinnati. We have some downtime, but it's been fun, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. I gotta say, like, I can't think of a bigger endorsement of Zac Taylor as a person than what you said, that you feel like you've talked to him more since he's been a head coach in the National Football League than when he was an assistant. That's just incredible to me. So thank you. All of this was awesome. Appreciate it. I said this like a month and a half ago when I did my last podcast that I will be back next week, and then that was not the case. I'll say it again now. I will be back next week. I can promise that. Hopefully we'll have Jay on again in the near future and not have such a long time gap between when we have him on the podcast. Subscribe to HailVarsity.com, read Hail Varsity, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
A Hurrdat Media Production.